this one's been a long time in the making. This is my Imperial Rye Maple Brown Ale. Check it out. Hey everybody, Gary Main Brew Guy here. I'm finally getting to this Maple Imperial Brown Ale. Anyway, this has been a long time in the making. I've had this maple barrel that I have been soaking in rye whiskey and Amish, 3 pounds of Amish maple syrup. And I've been slowly rotating the barrel for the last 3 months. And it's actually starting to like ooze from the staves a little bit, which is indicative that it's really soaked into the wood. So I'm really super psyched about putting this beer in that barrel after it's done fermenting. Okay, time to mash in. Just gotta make sure to get my manifold out of there. I'll just put this on that side so you guys can see a little better. So initial strike is 30 liters. Now I kept a lot of the sweet malts out of this. I've only put a small amount in there, mostly aiming for the biscuit side of things because there's going to be a lot of residual sweetness from the maple, from the barrel. So I don't need to go too sweet. I'm trying to bring out those nutty flavors. All right, let's get this strike water going. Pump on, open, open, and run. Wait, run. Okay, there we go. We're flowing. We are underletting at the moment. So I rearranged the plumbing on this a little bit and put some electric valves in there so I can just flip a switch and they all move at the same time. I did add a few other valves for cleaning purposes or double brew days. At some point I'm going to automate this thing. Right now it's still sort of like semi-manual, semi-auto. I don't know how you want to say it. So 3 liters have flowed so far. And that looks about right on the scale there, so good. Just got 27.5 liters to go now. What do we got here? 27 liters going in, almost 28. And we're just now covering the grains. That looks like about right. So the Digitem will shut off even though the pump will continue to run. That way I don't over infuse or over sparge. If you want to know more about that, you can check out the video where I added the Digitem to the system. Oh, that's looking about right here, and we're about to shut off. How's that compare to my scale? I should be at 50. Right on the money, baby. There goes the beep. I'll shut the pump off. Turn that off just in case, but all I really need to do is switch that over. Here's my brewing salts in through the top. Go to the last drop. And since I always go in a little higher than my strike, which is on 154, I'm just going to do a small stir, and then I'll switch to the plastic spoon. Oh yeah, that mash consistency is perfect. Still 150, just a shy under 154, so that's more a little stirring here with my plastic mash paddle. Underletting's pretty good. I don't usually find too many lumps. And today is no exception. I am not getting any lumpiness on this mash at all. Yeah, that's looking good. Smells good. May I have some more, please? Okay, where are we at? Oh, 152. Bada boom, bada bing. 153, it bumped up a little bit. Hey, I'll let you be the judge. Oh, sorry, Porter. All right, close enough for government work. Where are we sitting here? Did I get all my water in? Perhaps. Oh no, I haven't moved it over yet. Here we go. So it's going in now. Those of you who don't know, I have an expansion tank at the bottom which holds about 2.5 gallons of RO water, which I also collect, and it's under pressure. There's a little diaphragm in there. So it's pushing that RO water, the cooler room temperature RO water, into the mash tun, which is now bringing my HLT down to recirculating temperatures really quick. It would be the same as if you were just add more water to your HLT. Because this is an RO system, I can't afford to do that off the tap. It would really screw up my numbers. So therefore I have the expansion tank. At some point we're going to go all RO in the house. At some point, and then I won't even need this anymore, but for now this is what I'm using. And so that's filling, it's dropping. I'll give the HLT a quick stir before I start, because there will be some layering in there, you know, hotter water on top, colder water sinks to the bottom because it's more dense, that kind of thing. It's usually a couple degrees, but it's enough to make a difference when you're recirculating, so I'll just give it a quick stir. And then we'll hit the circulation pumps, and we'll be able to hold our temps, which were at 152 still. And I marked my time at 125 on the mash in, 13:25. Okay, so far the brew day is going pretty good. I haven't had any issues yet. Seem to have not forgotten anything, which is really important. Sometimes I do. It's usually when I got too many things going on in the brewery, you know, and I'm trying to get done in the same time frame. Not cleaning kegs, not rebuilding kegs, not doing any of that, just concentrating on the brew day. And so far so good. Other than the first 5 minutes of the recirculation, which I always get a little bit of a bobble. I don't know how true that is, but it's probably because everything's cooled off in the you know, the plumbing, and then when that first goes in, it dips and then pops back up again. It's usually within a 5-minute time frame, and then it's rock solid from there. We'll be sparging off what the recipe calls for from the HLT, which now will be at 5.5 pH because of the phosphoric acid I added. Everything seems to be going well. And so the fermenter is already cleaned and sanitized, ready to go. I'm starting to connect the cooling lines, and I haven't even put the work in the boil pot yet. So I'm really ahead of the brewery schedule. So I may actually be able to relax and have a beer. So next thing is to lay out all the hops and ingredients that are going to go into the boil, which I'm going to do that in a moment. As per the recipe, bitter gold, it was 0.75 ounces on my paperwork. I've adjusted it for yours because the alpha acids I had in Beer Smith was much higher than what this is. So a full ounce now, which it is reflected in what I showed you there earlier. Also a full ounce of Fuggle at 20, I believe. Yeah, 20. And then 10 minutes in, we have the Saaz. 5 minutes in, we have the Amish, 3 pounds of Amish maple syrup. So it's the same maple syrup that I used in the maple barrel. So I tried to keep it the same. So when I bought this, I actually bought 2. It wasn't cheap. These are 20 bucks a piece. So $40 worth of maple syrup. That's crazy, right? But the one in the barrel I can reclaim and use over and over again because of the rye whiskey I put in there as well. So that's not wasted. This is going to be, you know, an Imperial beer. It's quite large. There is no BJCP for an Imperial Brown Ale. It's just not there. So this is really kind of a specialty beer. It's outside the parameters of what the 2015 BJCP styles permit. Well, that's okay. Okay, that is looking really cool. Not as dark as I thought it would be, but after the boil and the maple syrup and the barrel, I think it's going to be a nice color brown. I'm looking forward to this. Started the 60-minute boil. As you can see there, the hot break is still rising. Bitter gold. That'll help take the hot break down a little. There we go. Changes the complexity of things quite a bit. Wow, that is a sharp, sharp bitterness that's coming off of there. It's almost like lemon peel. Oof. Okay, the hot break is down. That boil will settle in. It's, whoops, too close. It gets, well, let me back up a little. When there's a hot break on there, the boil has, a lot of the heat is kind of kept in like cloud cover. So it's like really inflating the boil. So once that hot break folds back down in, the boil comes down to a normal rate. I really don't have to change it. I know the system here and the amount of wort that I have and the outdoor temperature that I'm gonna run that at about 64%. So that's where we're at. And as you, well, you can't see, but I'll show you. It's starting to settle down already. It'll continue to settle down and just be a gentle rolling boil at some point. So now it's time to go dump the grains. Mash tun is clean. And I've got to do a hop drop here. My 20 minutes left in the boil. So let's take care of that right now. It's a whole ounce of UK Fuggles. In you go. So what I wanted to talk to you about is, have you ever been designing a recipe and you get to brew day and you think to yourself, why did I do that? Like, what was my thought process? I guess what changed my mind is when I was putting when the wort was going in and it was a lighter brown than I was anticipating, I thought, well, maybe I should just add the maple syrup in earlier so that it could caramelize more and maybe bring a little more color to the situation. So instead of going in at 10 minutes, which I had on there 5 or 10 minutes, I put it in with 40 minutes left in the boil. So that was an on-the-fly change just because my brain was just working on it, and I just thought, you know what, I think it's just gonna do better, earlier in the boil than later in the boil. So I split the difference sort of and called it a 40-minute drop, or 20-minute drop. So it went in at 20 minutes. Okay, the final 10 minutes of the boil, I have Warflock tablets or Irish moss, pretty much the same thing. Yeast nutrient and the last bit of the hops. In they go. That's it till the end, and then we have to cool it down and then as close to pitching temps as I can. And then I'll take it over to the glycol and bring it down the rest of the way. Have the tilt in there already sanitized, ready to go. I'm ready. Okay, the boil is complete. I am already recirculating to actually start to cool the wort down a little bit. Like I said in the past, if you've watched my videos, I try to get it down to about 100 or 120, 130, and then I'll move it over and run it really slow. Otherwise, it's gonna go in to the fermenter. Even at a trickle, it's gonna go in really hot. The groundwater here is in the mid 80s, so it's really hard to get the wort to cool down. But we're heading down now. We're just under 200, so we're on our way down. Okay, yeah, I am down to 130. So now I'm gonna shut the pump off and I'm gonna put it directly into the fermenter at a slow pace. I should get in there right around 88 degrees, 90 degrees. Drinking so good. This is the Brewtubers 2021 Yeast Experiment Belgian Dubbel. Wow, so good. Okay, so we collected a lot of wort. It's actually probably 6.5 gallons, and it was supposed to, well, it's probably on the upper end of 6.5 gallons. There literally is only about 2 inches of headspace in this 7-gallon fermenter. So I'm aerating this wort because it's a 1090 wort. I'm gonna pitch 2 US-05s in there. I collected way more wort than I thought I would. There's about this much headspace from the top of that brew bucket. Plus I hit my numbers. My efficiency is apparently a little higher than I thought. Although 3 pounds of maple syrup will displace and bring us up a little bit. So that may be what it was. So yeah, now it's just running a cleaning cycle through all the plumbing and then cleaning up the kettle and putting this thing away. Okay, well, it's done fermenting. It says on the tilt that I ended up at 1.012, a terminal gravity. Yeah, I think that might be a little inaccurate. It fluctuates between 1.012 and 1.014. So I'll actually take a gravity read to be sure. Now, this is the maple barrel, courtesy, the idea courtesy, I should say, of Mike Dean of the Dean's List, who used a maple barrel. This is not oak, this is maple wood. It's a brand new barrel. As you can see, it looks like it's leaking, but it is not. And I've been slowly rotating this every few days. And as you can see, the staves are oozing. And I can smell like a maple and rye coming through this barrel. It's insanity. Wow. Oh my God. Oh my God, that is so good. I'm gonna recapture it. I think it's just so good. I just need to recapture it just because, for one, it was expensive. It'll keep and I can reuse it after the barrel is empty. So I'll just pop that off. I did put a spigot on my barrel. Oh yeah, that stuff is thick. Oh my God, it's so thick. There's probably not that much left in there, to be honest with you. That is crazy. Yeah, it is coming out like syrup. So my guess is that all the alcohol just pulled into the staves. I want to try to get as much of that rye whiskey out of there as I can, just because I don't want the beer to be whiskey centric, but I'm not going to rinse the barrel because I think the initial use on this barrel is going to be incredibly powerful, which is why I went with a big beer, you know, an Imperial brown ale with maple sugar in the boil, as you saw, and another 3 pounds in here, although I seem to be collecting a lot more than I thought I would initially. It's just coming out rather slow. Okay, what I ended up doing was actually tipping it over at the end, and a lot of wood chips and sort of like, they looked like, well, not to be disgusting, clots of maple syrup. So I'm gonna just leave it there and see what happens. Right now I'm just gonna do a small purge of CO2 in here for a few minutes. And not that this is an oxygen-free necessity. Oxygen will be absorbed through the wood. That's part of the aging process. I'm just not trying to make it worse, so to speak. Next is the hose, which I just took out of the Star Sand, and that's just going to go on the end here and in here. Simple enough. We're going to turn this on. Off she goes. And then as I see the lid is getting sucked down, I'm going to go ahead and turn on the CO2 to help that along. And the lid pops back up. Finding the right balance there. Before we get too far into it, I want to get a sample here, so let's get that sample. Okay, here's the Imperial Brown Ale. It does look a little more on the orange side, but I think in a glass it probably, and we'll do that in a moment, will probably look more towards the brown. I think that in the future I'll probably add a little bit more chocolate rye malt just to get the color a little more on the darker brown side. So what I'm trying to identify here is how closely the tilt was. I have calibrated the tilt, so I'm fairly confident I'm in the ballpark as far as the tilt goes. So it's reading 1014 at 88 degrees. So that coupled with the temperature correction probably puts me in the area of 1013, which was right in between those two fluctuating numbers I was getting from the tilt. So I'm going to call that a good win. So let's look at the beer in a glass. Yeah, it's a little more brown. Not still as brown as I had hoped, but it's a brown ale. Okay, I hope you enjoyed the brew day. Let's get into the tasting of this thing. So you saw the pour there. So in the video I had talked about maybe the color wasn't going to be brown enough. Color spot on. That's exactly what I was hoping for, as you can see there in the drool cam. Okay, well, as far as the aroma goes, yeah, I'm getting huge maple, rye, like a caramel sweetness almost. It has this aroma like it's going to be super, super sweet, but I know where it finished. Okay, so it's super inviting. It is a big beer, okay? So I may not get all the way through this beer during the tasting, so. Really smooth, but a thin, not overly sweet mouthfeel. There's a lot of rye in there. More rye came from that rye whiskey that was in the barrel than I anticipated. Maybe I would have backed off on the rye whiskey a little bit. I did put some, I believe I put some rye brown malt in there as well. I don't think that's really causing any of the issue. I really do believe it was the rye whiskey that I put in the barrel. Now, when I say issue, to me, I would like the rye a little more subdued, but however, fantastic beer. That's my only complaint. I have been reviewing this myself over the last few weeks, and so this is now probably a month in the keg, and I didn't touch it for the first 2 weeks. As it cleared up, it's semi-clear. It's not crystal clear. I suppose it may over time, and the complexity of this beer may change as well over time. I'm only assuming it's going to get even more mellow. There is no harshness. There's a little bit of heat, but it's way at the end. You know you're drinking something with some alcohol, but it's not like a alcohol burn. It's a warmth. That's the word. A warmth. The maple is interesting. It's Mike Dean did one. He didn't do an Imperial Brown Ale. I think he did a like a barley wine, and he put in that barrel. His was more like the maple sugar was coming through like big time. Molasses, that's what's in here too, but molasses and maple sugar. This one is not as much as the maple sugar itself. Like this is more like you're getting a little bit of that maple smokehouse thing where they're reducing the maple syrup. There's a little bit of that in there. Definitely some of the molasses there. I think that was the word I was looking for earlier, and I couldn't think of it there. Fantastic beer, guys. It's a lot of work for this beer, and it is not really a cheap beer to make, but it's certainly something that would probably age quite well. Definitely a winter warmer coming up. It's sneaky. You drink this beer, and I'll have to calculate it out for you on the screen here, but I believe it's 9.8%. It may even be right at 10%. Absolutely no off flavors. I did pitch 2 US04, going off of memory now, from 7 weeks ago. Yeah, this beer is really, really good. I can't even express how delicious this beer is. I'm going to send some of these out to you guys. You can judge for yourself, but just the aroma on this beer, the flavor on this beer, the way it finishes, you expect it to be cloying and sweet, but it's not. It's not dry. It's nice and smooth and round on the tongue. There's nothing there to really put you off. If I could change one thing, I would bring the rye down just a little bit, and that's just a product of the rye whiskey. You could probably cut the maple syrup with rye whiskey, a little bit of rye whiskey, and then a little bit of vodka perhaps. And the only reason why I was putting alcohol in with the barrel, with the maple syrup, is that I didn't want it to spontaneously ferment. So the alcohol that's in there is sort of preventing any strange critters growing in there. That would have changed the complexity of this beer quite a bit, I'm sure. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. And if you like it, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. And I think we still have the bell, so if it's there, please click it for future notifications. Cheers. Oh, I almost forgot, guys. We have a new sponsor on brewtubers.com. It is Yakima Valley Hops. I want to thank Yakima Valley Hops for being the official hop sponsor for the Brewtubers Online Brew Club. Thanks, guys. Welcome aboard. Cheers.